Good morning. Yes, and I actually mean morning. Today we're diving into two sunrise portrait sessions in Toronto's beaches. First up is Balmy Beach Park, a quieter strip where the sand begins at Woodbine Beach and runs east. Then we hop over to Woodbine Beach, the biggest stretch of sand in the neighborhood. A boardwalk links both beaches, and at dawn, it's basically a private runway. These sessions were shot on separate days, each with its own mood and conditions. A bit about me: I'm obsessed with portrait photography. I love capturing people's stories, expressions, and energy. Whether it's also a solo portrait or intimate couple session, my long term goal is to build a successful photography business around these images, photographing weddings, families, and creative portraits projects, and eventually opening a studio where people can feel seen and celebrated. These sunrise shoots are a part of that journey and practicing techniques and exploring new locations and refining my style. Let's talk sunrise versus staying in bed. Sunrise light is gentle and pastel. Reds, pinks, and blues that look like they were painted on. At Balmy Beach and Woodbine, there's no one else around. The emptiness gives you a subject space to relax, laugh, and be themselves. As a portrait photographer, that intimacy is gold. There's no better way to connect with your someone than when the world is quiet and still. But sunrise shoots do have their cons. You have to wake up before your cat. The perfect light window is short, maybe about 30 minutes, so you're racing the clock. Fog may arrive uninvited, clouds may dull the palette, and because dawn is chilly, your model might be shivering under a blanket between shots. I'll think about sunset. Golden hour is gorgeous, but Woodbine turns into a human zoo: volleyball games, dog walkers, family buildings, sand castles. The light is warm but harsher, creating long shadows and silhouettes. Midday, harsh. Overhead sun equals raccoon eyes. For portraits, sunrise often wins. The light is soft, the vibe is calm, and the connection with your subject feels more intimate. I shot both sessions with my Nikon Z6 II camera. Two lenses, a 35mm f1.8 and a 105mm f2.8 macro, and the Godox 8400 Pro strobe with a small softbox. Here's why each piece matters. Nikon Z6 II, a low light champ. It handles iOS 1600 with ease, which is essential at dawn. Dual card slots keep my images safe. Important when you're building a portfolio. Autofocus is quick, though in the darkest moments it sometimes hunts like someone searching for car keys. Battery life is good, but I always carry spares because sunrise chills saps energy. 35mm f1.8, my go-to portrait lens. It's wide enough to include the boardwalk, lake, sky, but still flattering for portraits. Shooting wide open at f1.8 creates a creamy background and lets in a lots of light. The trade-off: you need to get close to your subject for tight frames, so you better be comfortable in those personal spaces. Edge sharpness drops slightly wide open, so I sometimes stop down to f2.2 for landscape style shots. 105mm f2.8 macro. This lens shines during Danielle's water shots. It's a macro lens, so it captures fine details like droplets and sand, but it doubles as a gorgeous portrait lens with compression at f2.8. It still gives buttery backgrounds but allows you to stand further back, helpful when your subject is in the water. It's heavier and a bit slower to focus, but the results are worth it. A Godox 8400 Pro with a small softbox, portable but powerful. This 400 watts strobe balances sunrise lights without overpowering it. High speed sync lets me shoot at fast shutter speeds while keeping my aperture wide open. Perfect when I use the 105 at f2.8 in the water. Downsides: it's not exactly pocket size, so light stands assistant is essential. I pack extra batteries, memory cards, and weather covers because reliable matters when your business goals hinge on creating high quality images. Balmy Beach sits at eastern edge of beaches, connecting to the rest of the shoreline via boardwalk. At 5 a.m., the pier creaks, the waves whisper, and you feel like you're the only person alive. The sand becomes rocky near the waterline, giving your feet a free massage. Grassy areas and playgrounds dot the landscape, but the real star is that long pier stretching into the Lake Ontario, a perfect leading line for portraits. This shoot was also a milestone. It was my first time shooting at Balmy Beach, and Data suggested it. I trusted her intuition, and she was right. The textures tell the story: weathered wood, coarse sand, pebbles, a long pier that draws your eyes out of the horizon. This raw, honest feel is exactly what I look for in portrait sessions. The emptiness of the dawn allows you to create without distractions, to let your subject open up at their own pace. The night before, I charge batteries, clean lenses, pack gear, check the weather like a meteorologist. We met 30 minutes before sunrise. Bring layers for warmth because dawn by the lake can be brisk. Balmy has its quirks, breezes that can give your subject either fabulous or disastrous hair. Coarse sand that can be painful near the water, conditions on lenses, and a damp boardwalk that's slippier than a politician. Embrace the chaos and laugh, the imperfections often lead to the best shots. To help clients feel more comfortable, I take a cue from barbershops and hair salons. I chat with them about life, relationships, dreams, anything to break the ice. I also bring a playlist that matches the vibe: Afro beats, reggaeton, dancehall, hip-hop, even some R&B. Music helps set the mood, eases nerves, and makes the session feel more like a hangout than a formal shoot. We began with silhouettes. Jada walking along the boardwalk, the pier, pastel sky behind her. I crouched low and used the planks as leading lines. As the light grew, details in her face and dress emerged. She strolled barefoot on the smoother sand, toiled as her dress flowed, and laughed when the seagull swooped by. These unopposed moments, her authentic expressions, are why I love portraits. They're real, relatable, and emotive. I alternate between natural light and flash. Sometimes a small softbox stayed off, and I let the cool down light paint the scene. When I needed warmth and contrast, a kiss of light from the strobe did the trick. Too much flash at sunrise ruins the mood. Too little leave mud. High-speed sync lets me keep shutter speeds fast while shooting wide open at f1.8, ensuring sharp movements and dreamy background blur. It's delicate dance, and I enjoy the challenge. We play with black lighting too. Once the sun peeked over the horizon, I placed Jada between me and the sun, and her hair glowed like a halo. I framed her through the pier railings. The 35mm lens allowed me to get close while still showing some environment. Wide lenses can distort if you're too close, so I sometimes stop down to f2.2 for edge sharpness. Then the Z6 II, 35mm, and an AD400 Pro were a dream team. The camera's low light strength lets us shoot early without noise. The lens captured both Jada and her environment. The strobe provided fill. If I'd used the 105 here, I would have needed to wade into the lake to frame her, and good for leg day and bad for staying dry. In post, I warmed the white balance, slightly boosted the vibrance, and highlight pastel hues, just delicious shadows, and managed the highlights to preserve cloud detail. Balancing the warmth and horizon, the cool shadows of the pier required a gradual filter. My goal was to keep the photos true to how they felt at the moment, honest, intimate, and soft, mirroring my vision for my portrait work. So yeah, you can definitely see that this was one of my favorite times to shoot. I love shooting around this time of year where it's warm and you get to do a lot of beach shoots, but I don't do the typical beach shoot. I like to do like very ethereal type of work when I work with clients who want to do a beach shoot, where I'll say, yo, let's do sunrise, where it's a lot easier to capture, where there's nobody else around, it's just me and you, and fun, really. So yeah, this is what I love about working doing portraits. You get to capture something that you would normally see images like in a movie, and I definitely feel like when I shoot these kind of looks and they're backlit, feels very cinematic to me, at least. I also love capturing video around these times as well because the slow mo, the lighting, it just feels so beautiful. Like basically like one of those movies. I think the one of the movies I'm thinking about in my head is like Titanic or The Notebook. I know they never had any kind of scenes like this, but it just feels like it for me when I look at that. Like that's how I'm trying to get when it comes to these kind of images, just to capture that feeling of those movies. And at least in my head, at least to me personally, right? It doesn't have to remotely be something towards you. It might even feel like a different type of movie maybe to you when you look at these images. Might not even feel like The Notebook or Titanic. But also I like shooting at these times because it does not just calm the model working with me. It calms me. Like I love these kind of shoots because they being near the water cool like relaxes me. It mentally it helps me out a lot. And it definitely changes my mentality of everything. Like it makes me feel at ease when I do these kind of shoots. Um, and I get these beautiful images and I have to go through post processing with these images. It definitely brings a joy to me, to be honest. I personally love and appreciate all the work that I do when I do these kind of stuff, and the models who dedicate themselves to waking up as early as I do to get to the shoots at around these times. I've been working with Jada for so long. You've definitely seen her in past clips, past videos. She's definitely always there to get creative with me, and I truly appreciate that when it comes to her. We always have a good time, and she's always down for pretty much everything. you know, you don't find that a lot when it comes to models. It does take time to build that repertoire with them and to get them comfortable with every type of idea that you want to do. And that's something that, you just have to work and build with people for some time before they really trust you to do that. Like, especially when it came to the water, if you know anything about Lake Ontario, it is disgusting. I know that they say that it's swimmable, like you can swim in there. Technically, you can, but there's always been this like stigma in the community about like going into Lake Ontario at Woodbine or anywhere near Woodbine. You might go into the water and maybe grow like 3 hands or 3 feet or some kind of crazy situation like that. And that's just always been the goal theory when it comes to Lake Ontario, and dipping your feet or body in there. But there are people that do that, and they really enjoy um, swimming in Lake Ontario, I guess. Personally for me, I like going to a different beach and swimming in there. I like to go a little bit further out, called Sabo Beach, and that's also in Ontario. It's a bit further. I think it's like about an hour and 30 minutes away, maybe, from Toronto. Um, Worth the drive though. Beautiful water, beautiful water. So yeah, I mean, this is Jada, and this is our shoot. Um, the next shoot that I'm about to show you is Woodbine Beach. Woodbine Beach is a wide open canvas that runs from the Ashbridges Bay to Q Beach. It boasts a boardwalk that spans the entire length. At dawn, it's empty and quiet, but mid-morning, it's volleyball central. On this morning, a fog rolled in and hugged the shoreline, making everything dreamy. The sand here is smoother and easier on bare feet than Balmy's rocky edges. Volleyball nets and distant trees created layers of depth. Woodbine's openness means you feel the wind and see the entire horizon. For portraits, it's an opportunity to create dramatic cinematic scenes with wide expansions, foggy atmospheres, perfect for showcasing my flexibility as a portrait photographer. We arrived 40 minutes before sunrise to scout the foggy conditions. I packed extra batteries and a rain sleeve for safety. I used a lightweight sand and sandbags on the small softbox, and I smoothed out the sand to avoid footprints in our dreamy shots. When Danielle planned to step into the water, I switched to my 105mm f2.8 macro lens, shooting wide open at f2.8 let me capture creamy backgrounds while maintaining sharpness. The longer focal length compressed the scene and made the fog feel closer. Throughout, we only shot by the water and sand, no boardwalk or silhouettes here. This shoot was all about water and sand. We stayed by the shoreline, focused on Danielle's interaction with the waves and smooth sand. Unlike Jada's shoot, there were no silhouettes or natural light, only shots. Everything we captured used flash. For the first half, I used a 35mm f1.8 with the flash, shooting wide open at f1.8 and using high-speed sync. Kept the background blurry, creamy, and allowed me to freeze motion. The softbox provided consistent light on Danielle's face and body as we walked along the wet sand, kicked water, and posed near the shore. The fog still acted like a giant diffuser, but the strobe added a punch and a direction needed to scalp her features. Just like with Jada, conversations, music kept the vibe relaxed. We chatted about life, relations, and I played some Afro beats and hip hop to keep the energy up. When Danielle stepped into the water, I swapped to the 105mm f2.8 macro lens. Shooting at f2.8 wide open and using flash gave me beautifully compressed, intimate frames. The 105 captured details like water droplets on her dress and ripples around her legs. Again, high-speed sync let me keep the shutters fast enough to avoid motion blur. The 105 lens is heavier and slower to focus, but the detail and compression are worth it for those intimate water shots. We used flash for every frame. The fog added atmosphere, while the strobe ensured Danielle was well lit against the misty background. Music, conversation stayed close to the water, kept the session lively and personal. The Z6 II handled foggy, low contrast scenes beautifully. The 35mm produced wide, ethereal frames with flash, while the 105mm macro captured intimate details and pressed the frog. The AD400 Pro with high-speed sync kept my exposure under control across both lenses. The batteries held up despite the damp air. If you're staying at the water's edge, the macro lens is especially powerful. Just to remember a towel for your glass. In editing, cool down the white balance light to keep the fog's mood, lifted highlights gently, and used radio filters to warm Danielle's skin in the flash-lit shots. Dehaze use it like a hot sauce. Too much ruins the meal. These images are about atmosphere and detail, the tiny droplets on her dress, the softness of the fog, and I want viewers to feel like they were standing there with us. These two sunrise sessions highlight why I love portrait photography. Balmy Beach gave us an intimate boardwalk, coarse, sad, and rocky shoreline, perfect for capturing movement and emotion. Woodbine Beach offered a grand, foggy canvas of smooth sand and endless horizon, ideal for dramatic flashlit water shots. Both locations align with my goal of creating portraits that tell stories and make people feel seen. Sunrise sessions requires sacrifice, early mornings, chilly air, quick decision making, but they reward you with softness, serenity, and an intimate connection with your subject. That's what I'm building my business on. Authentic portraits that reflect personality and mood. Sunset shoots can be stunning, but they're busier and the light is less forgiving. I'll still shoot them, but sunrise will always be my creative playground. Gear choice matters. The Nikon Z6 II covers low light and high ISO. The 35mm f1.8 captures environment and intimacy. The 105 f2.8 macro compression sees and captures details. The Godox AD400 Pro with a small softbox and high-speed sync gives me control over the light without losing natural look. Knowing when to switch lenses or adjust settings helps me deliver images that match my vision and serve my clients. It's very interesting, like looking back at these like shots and stuff and how beautiful they look when you focus so much on taking the picture and how it's like looking in the camera, but man, when you watch over like the BTS, it looks amazing. Shout out to Danielle. The water was cold. It was not warm whatsoever, but she was a trooper. She really got in there and really delivered. Honestly, it's just the perfect time, like I said, to shoot. It's just at sunrise. I like sunset. I actually really adore sunset. Um, for when I do like in the city, and I love that kind of look in the city for sunset. But when I want to head over to the beach, I don't want anybody in my vicinity. I don't want no one there. I just want to shoot in peace and quiet. Like you get the occasional person that will try to interact with you and communicate with you and all that junk. And that's totally fine. Like, I don't necessarily mind too much about that. Um, Interacting with me and stuff, that's totally fine. But like some when you're doing these shoots during normal hours of the day when people like to photobomb and then you gotta remove them from the background, or people are standing behind you, people want to ask you questions, all types of stuff, and it just gets pretty annoying to do these kind of shoots. You want to be able to have peace of mind. Like I said, it's not just these shoots give the model peace of mind, but they give me a peace of mind when I do them. So I like to work with people that are up for doing these early morning shoots. Like not everybody can do them. Not everybody's a morning person. Me personally, I'm always up around 5 a.m. So this is definitely a norm to me to get up that early and do things. But what is abnormal is get up and do things and leaving my house heading 30 minutes down to the beach. That takes me about 30 minutes to head to the beach. Um, no traffic, nobody's on the road. You're the only soul out there, except for people who are into fitness or trying to meditate and look at people who love sunrise as much as I do. That's why I personally love it. I get a lot of clients asking to do these type of shoots, but they sometimes think it's sunset, right? Looking at the images, I could see why they may think that. Um, and honestly, it makes sense. But when I tell them it's sunrise, and you gotta get up at like 5, I gotta meet you at 5 a.m. at the beach and da da da. They are sometimes not everybody is up for doing that. So it takes special individuals who are creative just like you to do that. And it's long lasting when you work with people like that. They want to work with you all the time. I find that the majority of people I've ever worked with doing sunrise shoots, I still have very close connection with. It's odd. It's very weird to explain. I have such a close connection with those people, and I still work with them even till today. Even sometimes the ones I don't talk to anymore, will hit me up years later and be like, "Hey, we should definitely work again," And it's because people who are dedicated to doing shoots at this time are serious, you know. So that's important when doing these shoots. So, in conclusion, I hope this playful deep dive made you smile, taught you something about dawn shoots, and showed you why I'm so passionate about portraits. If it inspired you to set your alarm for sunrise, or if you want to talk lenses, goals, or upcoming shoots, let me know in the comments. See you in the next sunrise with a clear mind and camera ready.